discovered Land O'Lakes, a fantastic snow-free oasis in the ice desert.
Greetings, pilots and passengers. So all should be good. We shouldn't have any issues with the audio anymore, which is thank God for that. So today we're going to be looking at Admiral Byrd, so Richard E. Byrd. He was a US naval officer, he was a polar explorer, he was best known for exploring Antarctica. It's believed he was the first person to fly from the North to the South Pole the fastest. And also on his expeditions he reported actually going inside the Earth. A lot of this comes from his involvement in Operation High Jump, which was a mission in 1946 to, I think it was about 1947, to Antarctica to establish the US base called Little America 4, and for America to get more of an understanding of Antarctica. Now, Admiral Byrd, when he was there, he kept a hidden diary. His flight logs have also been released, which have been kindly sent across to me by a viewer called Lucille. So thank you so much for sending them across. And we're going to have a look at them today and go into them. It's going to be really interesting because my dad has told me about Admiral Byrd and what he saw before. But other than a few bits and bobs I've seen on the History Channel going into Hollow Earth and potentially what Admiral Byrd saw, I haven't really looked into it that much myself. So this will be really interesting, and I mean, let's just fly into it. This got sent to me by Lucille, as I said, who is a viewer of the channel. Very kind of him to send this across. Included is the diary and also the flight logs, which were published by Richard Byrd's son. The diary is part of Operation High Jump, it appears, because Operation High Jump took place from 1946 to 1947 roundabout, so this would tie in with that. So this was an exploration flight over the North Pole and the Inner Earth, my secret diary. So let's just get into it. So Admiral Byrd writes, "I must write this diary in secrecy and obscurity. It concerns my Arctic flight of the 19th day of February in the year of 1947. Here comes a time when the rationality of men must fade into insignificance and one must accept the inevitability of the truth. I am not at liberty to disclose the following documentation at this writing. Perhaps it shall never see the light of public scrutiny, but I must do my duty and record here for all to read one day. In a world of greed and exploitation of certain of mankind can no longer suppress that which is truth." Basically, he knew that everything he has seen, he cannot reveal to the public, and he must keep a secret. So this flight log is at Base Camp Arctic, the 19th of February 1947. Trying to read American dates. So at 6 in the morning, or 600 hours, all preparations are complete for our flight northward, and we are airborne with full fuel tanks at 610 hours. So 10 past 6, I guess. It's 6:20. Fuel mixture on starboard engine seems too rich. Adjustment made and Pratt Whitneys are running smoothly. At 7:30. Radio check with base camp. All is well and radio reception is normal. 7:40. Note slight oil leak in starboard engine. Oil pressure indicator seems normal, however. At 800 or 8. Slight turbulence noted from easterly direction at altitude of 2,321 feet. Correction to 1,700 feet. No further turbulence, but tailwind increases. Slight adjustment in throttle controls. Aircraft performing very well now. At 8:15. Radio check with base camp. Situation normal. At 8:30. Turbulence encountered again. Increase altitude to 2,900 feet. Smooth flight conditions again. At 10 past 9. Vast ice and snow below. Note coloration of yellowish nature and disperse in a linear pattern. Altering course for a better examination of this colour pattern below. Note reddish or purple colour also. Circle this area 2 full turns and return to assigned compass heading. Position check made against base camp and relay information concerning colorations in the ice and snow below. At 10 past 9. Both magnetic and gyro compasses beginning to gyrate and wobble. We are unable to hold our heading by instrumentation. Take bearing with a sun compass, yet all seems well. The controls are seemingly slow to respond and have sluggish quality, but there is no indication of icing. And then at 9:15 he says, in the distance is what appears to be mountains. So he's starting to see things that he isn't expecting to see. He wasn't expecting to see these mountains where he is. At around 10 to 10, he says, 29 minutes elapsed flight time from the first sighting of the mountains. It is no illusion. They are mountains and consisting of a small range that I've never seen before. So he's flying along and starting to see things that shouldn't be there. Or because obviously he was a polar explorer, he knew much more about this area than others will have done. So he may have felt a lot more comfortable with what he expected to see there. But now he's seeing things that even he has never seen at 5 to 10. Altitude changed to 2,950 feet, encountering strong turbulence again. At 10 o'clock, we are crossing over the small mountain range and still proceeding northward as best as can be ascertained. Beyond the mountain range is what appears to be a valley with a small river or stream running through the centre portion. There should be no green valley below. Something is definitely wrong and abnormal here. We should be over ice and snow. To the port side are great forests growing on the mountain slopes. Our navigation instruments are still spinning. The gyroscope is oscillating back and forth. So he's seen a valley of green. When we think of Antarctica, we just think of ice, snow, it being completely desolate, polar bears, just freezing. But he is seeing valleys, he's seeing streams, he's seeing mountains that shouldn't be there, he's seeing forests. He's transitioned into a part of Antarctica that shouldn't exist. It defies what he's expecting or what he knows of Antarctica. At 5 past 10, I alter altitude to 1,400 feet and execute a sharp left turn to better examine the valley below. It is green with either moss or a type of tight-knit grass. The light here seems different. I cannot see the sun anymore. We make another left turn and we spot what seems to be a large animal of some kind below us. It appears to be an elephant. No, it looks more like a mammoth. This is incredible, yet there it is. Decrease altitude to 1,000 feet and take binoculars to better examine the animal. It is confirmed. It's definitely a mammoth-like animal. Report this to base camp. So he's seeing woolly mammoths, which, at this point in time, they are extinct. They shouldn't be around, but he's seeing woolly mammoths. He's seeing what is like a completely different world to the earth we're actually on. At 10:30, encountering more rolling green hills now. The external temperature indicates to reach 74 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 23 degrees Celsius. Continuing on our heading now. Navigation instruments seem normal now. I'm puzzled over their actions. Attempt to contact base camp, radio is not functioning. He can't get back to base camp. He is literally in another world. It is just like another completely different world. At 11:30, countryside in Antarctica. Below is more level and normal, if I may use that word. Ahead we spot what seems to be a city. This is impossible. Aircraft seems light and oddly buoyant. The controls refuse to respond. My God, off our port and starboard wings are a strange type of aircraft. They are closing rapidly alongside. They are disc-shaped and have a radiant quality to them. Also, I'd just like to point out that I've said Antarctica a few times in this. And I do mean to actually say North Pole. Just thought I'd say that because I keep getting confused. And I'm also thinking about one of the last videos I did on Antarctica. I just can't get it out of my brain, so apologies there. I do mean the North Pole. They are closing rapidly alongside. They are disc-shaped and have a radiant quality to them. So you've seen alien types of craft. They are close enough now to see the markings on them. It is a type of swastika. This is fantastic. Where we are, what has happened. I tug at the controls again. They will not respond. We are caught in an invisible vice grip of some type. So they're using some kind of energy control on their planes, so they can't control it and are being led. In terms of the swastika, of course the swastika existed before the Nazis took it on and started using it, so we can't say it's Nazis. I would say it's just, the swastika has been used as a peaceful symbol before was taken on by the Nazis and now has a completely different meaning to what it used to be. So I keep that in mind. At 11:35, our radio crackles and a voice comes through in an English what perhaps is a slight Nordic or Germanic accent. The message is, "Welcome, Admiral, to our domain. We shall land you in exactly 7 minutes. Relax, Admiral, you are in good hands. I note the engines of our plane have stopped running. The aircraft is under some strange control and is now turning itself. The controls are useless." At 20:12, another radio message received. "We begin the landing process now, and in moments the plane shudders slightly and begins a descent as though caught in some great unseen elevator. The downward motion is negligible, and we touch down with only a slight jolt. I am making a hasty last entry in the flight log." This is at 11:45. "Several men are approaching on foot towards our aircraft. They are tall, with blonde hair. In the distance is a large shimmering city pulsating with rainbow hues of colour. I do not know what is going to happen now, but I see no signs of weapons on those approaching. I hear now a voice ordering me by name to open the cargo door. I comply." A new civilization, a civilization that has probably existed there for a very long time, that he has been invited to, selectively invited to, I would say. It kind of reminds me of when you hear about, I think it's Pleiadian aliens, or the aliens that are the really tall Nordic aliens. It kind of reminds me of that, how they're described as having really blonde hair, they're really tall, and are reminiscent of sort of the Netherlands people you see there, the population there. So that was the end of the flight log. So far he's discovered what shouldn't be in the North Pole. There's no ice, there's no frozen wastelands, you could say. He's discovered a warmer climate, where there's civilization who have much more advanced technology. From this point, I write all the following events here from memory. It defies the imagination and would seem all but madness if it had not happened. The radio man and I are taken from the aircraft, and we are received in a most cordial manner. We are then boarded on a small platform-like conveyance with no wheels, so hovercraft. It moves us towards the glowing city with great swiftness. As we approach, the city seems to be made of a crystal material. Soon we arrive at a large building that is a type I've never seen before. It appears to be right out of the design board of Frank Lloyd Wright, perhaps more correctly, out of a Buck Rogers setting. We are given some type of warm beverage which tasted like nothing I have ever savoured before. It is delicious. It kind of reminds me of the world of Oz, from The Wizard of Oz, and the crystal city there. Also a little bit of like Superman. You have to wonder maybe if what was seen here and what is known of this place has inspired a lot of the culture, the TV shows and movies that we see today. After about 10 minutes, two of our wondrous appearing hosts come to our quarters and announce that I am to accompany them. I have no choice but to comply. I leave my radio man behind, and we walk a short distance and enter into what seems to be an elevator. We descend downward for some moments, the machine stops, and the door lifts silently upward. We then proceed down a long hallway that is lit by a rose-coloured light that seems to be emanating from the very walls themselves. One of the beings motions for us to stop before a great door. Over the door is an inscription that I cannot read. The great door slides noiselessly open, and I am beckoned to enter. One of my hosts speaks. "Have no fear, Admiral. You are to have an audience with the Master." So they have technology throughout this that is beyond, at this point, human capability, or what is known for humans to have, because I don't doubt that there's technology that is hidden from the public. So you have to wonder whether we have the same sort of technology. Maybe we've reverse engineered it. But he's seeing light coming out of walls, he's on levitation devices, he's on technology that is, silent. You don't really get that much of that nowadays. My computer sounds like a plane taking off, but it's really interesting to see. I step inside and my eyes adjust to the beautiful coloration that seems to be filling the room completely. Then I begin to see my surroundings. What greeted my eyes is the most beautiful sight of my entire existence. It is in fact too beautiful and wondrous to describe. It is exquisite and delicate. I do not think there exists a human term that can describe it in any detail with justice. My thoughts are interrupted in a cordial manner by a warm, rich voice of melodious quality. "I bid you welcome to our domain, Admiral. I see a man with delicate features and with the etching of years upon his face. He is seated at a long table. He motions me to sit down in one of the chairs. After I am seated, he places his fingertips together and smiles. He speaks softly again and conveys the following. Before I get into that, I'd like to point out, it's all very spiritual and peaceful. These people, these hosts at the Admiral's meeting, they live in a very spiritual place, compared to Earth at the moment, so divided, so full of destruction, and he can't describe how exquisite, how delicate, how beautiful the area is. The positive vibes he's getting, not just from the host, but the whole experience. We have let you enter here because you are of noble character and well known on the surface world, Admiral. Surface world? I half gasp under my breath. Yes, the master replies with a smile. You are in the domain of the Ariani, the inner world of the earth. We shall not long delay your mission, and you'll be safely escorted back to the surface and for a distance beyond. But now, Admiral, I shall tell you why you have been summoned here. Our interest rightly begins just after your race exploded the first atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan. It was at that alarming time we sent our flying machines, the Flugelrads, to your surface world to investigate what your race had done. That is, of course, past history now, my dear Admiral, but I must continue on. You see, we have never interfered before in your race's wars and barbarity, but now we must, for you have learned to tamper with a certain power that is not for man, namely that of atomic energy. Our emissaries have already delivered messages to the powers of your world, and yet they do not heed. Now you have been chosen to be witness here that our world does exist. You see, our culture and science is many thousands of years beyond your race, Admiral. Now that is incredibly interesting. I remember my dad telling me a little bit about this, how all of the wars, all of the violences taking place on Earth is having an effect, an impact on this inner world, that they are having to intervene and to tell humans what they are doing. And what they're doing is not only harming the surface world, not only destroying our planet, inner planet too, the underworld, not in a dark way, but the world within the world. And they are so much more advanced than we are within. They understand technology more. They are more spiritual too, and they understand that man is just not made to have atomic energy because we are going to use it wrong. We're not going to use it right. I interrupted. But what does this have to do with me, sir? The master's eyes seemed to penetrate deeply into my mind, and after studying me for a few moments he replied, Your race has now reached the point of no return, for there are those among you who would destroy your very world rather than relinquish their power as they know it. That sounds familiar. And to know that this is in 1947, and the Admiral was being told then that there are people on this earth who have gone to a point where there is no going back. And just look at where we are now. We're in 2020. The world is, some would say, in turmoil, so divided, such a negative year we've had. And it's all because of these people who are obsessed with power. They want to hold on to every bit of power that they have, not just to control us, but for wealth, just so that they can stay in control of absolutely everything. And Admiral Byrd was being told this back in 1947. I nodded, and the master continued. In 1945 and afterward, we tried to contact your race, but our efforts were met with hostility. Our Flugelrads were fired upon. Yes, even pursued with malice and animosity by your fighter planes. So, now, I say to you, my son, there is a great storm gathering in your world, a black fury that will not spend itself for many years. There will be no answer in your arms. There will be no safety in your science. It may rage on until every flower of your culture is trampled, and all human things are levelled in vast chaos. Your recent war was only a prelude of what is yet to come for your race. We here see it more clearly with each hour. Do you say I am mistaken? It really hits home. Everything he says is what we've lived through. The wars. 2020, I would say, science. With what has happened with the virus, and what has happened with lockdowns, and what is coming out. The corruption that is coming out from these people who we've put our trust in for so many years. It's all slowly being exposed, and I hope it all comes to a head very soon and is all resolved. No, I answer, it happened once before. The Dark Ages came and they lasted for more than 500 years. Yes, my son, replied the master, the Dark Ages that will come now for your race will cover that earth like a pall, but I believe that some of your race will live through the storm. Beyond that, I cannot say. We see at a great distance a new world stirring from the ruins of your race, seeking its lost and legendary treasures. And they will be here, my son, safe in our keeping. When that time arrives, we shall come forward again to help revive your culture and your race. Perhaps, by then, you will have learned the futility of war and its strife, and after that time, certain of your culture and science will be returned for your race to begin anew. You, my son, are to return to the surface world with this message, calm before the storm, when in reality we have been living through this storm the whole time. This new world, some may say, is negative. First thing that came to my head was New World Order, but I wonder if this new world he is describing is this new world of peace, this world of love and light, this world where the white hats, as some would call them, are in control. Maybe we are on the verge of this new world. Maybe all of this technology, lost and legendary treasures, are currently within the inner earth. They are holding on to them and are waiting for that moment to come along and help us progress in the right direction. With these closing words, our meeting seemed at an end. I stood for a moment as in a dream, but yet I knew this was reality, and for some strange reason I bowed slightly, either out of respect or humility, I do not know which. Suddenly, I was again aware that the two beautiful hosts who had brought me here were again at my side. "This way, Admiral," motioned one. I turned once more before leaving and looked back towards the master. A gentle smile was etched on his delicate and ancient face. "Farewell, my son," he spoke. Then he gestured with a lovely slender hand, a motion of peace, and our meeting was truly ended. Quickly, we walked back through the great door of the master's chamber and once again entered into the elevator. The door slid silently downward, and we were at once going upward. One of my hosts spoke again. "We must now make haste, Admiral, as the master desires to delay you no longer on your scheduled timetable, and you must return with this message to your race." I said nothing. All of this was almost beyond belief, and once again my thoughts were interrupted as we stopped. I entered the room and was again with my radio man. He had an anxious expression on his face. As I approached, I said, "It is all right, Howie, it is all right." The two beings motioned us towards the awaiting conveyance. We boarded and soon arrived back at the aircraft. The engines were idling and we boarded immediately. The whole atmosphere seemed charged now with a certain air of urgency. After the cargo door was closed, the aircraft was immediately lifted by that unseen force until we reached an altitude of 2,700 feet. Two of their craft were alongside for some distance, guiding us on our return way. I must state here, the airspeed indicator registered no reading, yet we were moving along at a very rapid rate. That is really interesting that these aircraft that they have they're so advanced that they can go beyond a pace that our human planes just could not register. They're so much more advanced than we are. So at 2:15 hours, a radio message comes through. "We are leaving you now, Admiral. Your controls are free. Auf Wiedersehen." We watched for a moment as the Flugelrads disappeared into the pale blue sky. The aircraft suddenly felt as though caught in a sharp downdraft for a moment. We quickly recovered air control. We do not speak for some time. Each man has his thoughts. The entry in the flight log continues. At 2:20, we are again over vast areas of ice and snow, and approximately 27 minutes from base camp. We radio them, they respond. We report all conditions normal. Base camp expresses relief at our re-established contact. I wonder what it's like. You've gone from a world that is green, that is warm, back into the snow and ice at 300 hours. We land smoothly at base camp. I have a mission. Here are the end log entries. March 11th, 1947. I've just attended a staff meeting at the Pentagon. I've stated fully my discovery and the message from the master. All is duly recorded. The President has been advised. I am now detained for several hours. 6 hours, 39 minutes to be exact. I am interviewed intently by top security forces and a medical team. It was an ordeal. I'm placed under strict control via the national security provisions of the United States of America. I am ordered to remain silent in regard to all that I have learned on the behalf of humanity. Incredible. I am reminded that I am a military man and I must obey orders. I have watched some of Admiral Byrd's interviews and he does make some hints. I know in one video he hinted at an oasis beyond the North Pole, an oasis beyond Antarctica as well. And You can tell he desperately wishes he could say so much more, but he's been gagged essentially, he's been censored, he's been forced to remain silent. I mean, what would the world be like if this was made public? Maybe we would all be aware of it. Maybe this inner earth would make themselves known to everyone. On the 30th of December 1956, his final entry. These last few years, elapsed since 1947, have not been kind. I now make my final entry in this singular diary. In closing, I must state that I have faithfully kept this matter secret as directed all these years. It's been completely against my values of moral right. Now, I seem to sense the long night coming on, and this secret will not die with me. But as all truth shall, it will triumph, and so it shall. This can be the only hope for mankind. I have seen the truth, and it has quickened my spirit, and has set me free. I have done my duty towards this monstrous military industrial complex. Now the long night begins to approach, but there shall be no end. Just as the long night of the Arctic ends, the brilliant sunshine of truth shall come again, and those who are of darkness shall fall in its light. For I have seen that land beyond the pole, that centre of the great unknown. All of that was incredibly eye-opening. His experiences, the fact that he was forced to remain silent for so many years, and he knows that it's these darker powers that are forcing him to do so. He followed his orders, but he regrets it. You can see that he does regret his decision. He knows that he has to make this public, and he does. He makes it public through his diaries, through his flight logs. And I think his experience makes him more one with love and light. He realises there's so much more to life. He realises there's so much more to Earth, within the Earth itself. I mean, the other day we looked at the hole in Antarctica that Brian S. had seen as he flew over it. He believes it to be a UFO base, potentially, but you do have to wonder whether this hole he saw was an entry into inner Earth, something similar to what Admiral Byrd has described in his diaries throughout his flight logs. One can only hope that the world we live in now is restored once again. These darker powers are held accountable, and we eventually get access to these technologies that are being withheld from us. I've always thought that a lot of technologies have been withheld from public knowledge by these darker groups, these occultic groups, and I mean, I don't doubt that is the case. But now I do wonder if maybe some technologies are being withheld by lighter groups of love and light, races like the ones described in Inner Earth, who are withholding this technology to a point that it can be given to us and given to powers who are going to use it for good and ensure everyone has access to it. I want to thank Lucille for sending this across again. It is amazing, and I've seen snippets of his flight logs, I've seen his interviews, which are obviously very limited in what he says within them because he's not allowed to say anything, but to read this all in full, it's amazing to hear it direct from Admiral Byrd himself. In conclusion, I think there is an inner Earth. He would not just write this for the sake of it. We've heard similar things before about this, and it's another one of the mysteries of not only the North Pole but Antarctica too, the North and South Pole. What do you think about Admiral Byrd's discoveries on his expeditions? Do you think there's an inner Earth? What do you think is there? Leave me a comment down below in the description because I love reading what you all have to say, and I love replying to you all too. I'd like to say that if you'd like to support the channel, please subscribe to Dare to Fly Today and get ready to take flight. Turn on notifications so you get notified every time I upload a video. Like and share this video with others. If you'd like to support the channel even further, you can make a one-off donation to my Ko-fi page, which will go towards buying me some rocket fuel for my ship. Or you can also donate via my PayPal, and links to both of those will be down below in the description box. I hope you all have a wonderful, blessed day wherever you are in the world. Stay true, stay awake, and stay blessed. And as always, fly high, fear less.